Now, let's shift perspectives. We come from systems to nature. Because our next speaker asks a question that sounds simple at first, but really isn't. Can AI help save nature? Can AI save nature? Dr. Frauke Fischer is a biodiversity expert and author, and in her work, including her book, which you can find outside, signed by her, she explores exactly this intersection between technology, ecosystems, and real-world impact. And she brings a very grounded view, what AI can realistically contribute and where we still have to take responsibility ourselves. So please welcome on stage Dr. Frauke Fischer. And Frauke, you might be wondering why I am not running away and giving you the stage space. This is because we have a little, we want to ask the audience the question that you are asking, and then I please ask the technician team to switch back to my presentation. You've been a bit too fast, thank you very much. Because before Frauke starts to talk, I would like to know your opinion, how much you agree or how much you think that AI can help save nature. So when you scan this code, you will have this question appear on your phone, and you can set the slider from 1 to 5. 1 is absolutely nonsense, I do not agree. And 5 is, I really strongly believe that AI can help save nature. So let's give you some more seconds. I can see still people scanning the code. And sorry, am I in the way? Yes, I'm sorry. Tell me, please. The last thing I want is to be in the way here today. So, does it work? Everyone scanned? Okay, perfect. So I think we can switch to the Mentimeter part that shows the aha. Look at that.
Very diplomatic.
Very diplomatic crowd, right? Okay. Yeah, and we have still some answers coming in, but it's still 3.5. Okay. So it's a bit more, you know, people have hope in AI and to save nature. So we said we will not comment on this right now, because you might give your answer in your talk right now. So I'd say, oh, it went down. You guys, it's still moving? Okay, but I think the picture is clear. Okay, so thank you very much for being part of this, and now we switch to Dr. Fischer's presentation. Okay, thank you, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. So, well, the question, or maybe before I start, I have to tell you that if you are interested to know more about, and you're able to speak German or read German, very well, enthusiastic sponsor sponsored books. So each one of you can take one of the books, of the signed books, but they are unfortunately in German. But you'll find the book outside if you're interested. So, well, can AI save nature? The answer is pretty easy. I don't know, can we put this, the flash somewhere else? Thank you very much. So the answer is actually very, very easy, and you might ask why I even wrote a book if the answer is so easy. So the answer is no. Only we could, and we definitely should. And I'll elaborate a little bit on this during the next couple of slides. So this is most likely the most important slide you're going to see today, or maybe it's the most important slide that you see in your lifetime, because this is the slide that explains what ecosystem services are about. So because the question is, well, we might raise the question, why do we at all need to protect nature? Why does nature needs our help, and why do we have to, should we care about this? And the question lays in this slide. This shows you ecosystem services. Ecosystem services are defined as services that nature does for humans. So it's a very anthropocentric view of the world, and these ecosystem services can be divided in 4 categories. So the first category, provisioning services, is everything that we take out of nature directly. That might be timber for construction, that might be water for every single industrial process, that might be medicinal plants to produce pharmaceuticals, etc. Then we have regulating services, and you see, for example, that biodiversity regulates the world climate. Biodiversity regulates the global water circle. Biodiversity prevents erosion. Biodiversity provides pollination for food plants, for example. Then we have supporting systems. These are, for example, the production of fertile soil, photosynthesis, so the ability of mostly plants to transform anorganic material into organic material. And last but not least, cultural services, the inspiration we get out from nature, the fact that nature keeps us happy and healthy. And the very important thing here is that these services are irreplaceable. For example, fertile soil, you can take all the Nobel Prize winners in the world, you give them all the money, all the equipment they ask for, and a bucket of sand, and you ask them to produce fertile soil, and they'll come out of their laboratory with a bucket of sand. It's not possible for humans to produce fertile soil. Now, to give you some more data on these ecosystem services, we know that, for example, 2/3 of the Earth's available drinking water, fresh water, comes from forests. We know that 80% of all approved drugs and 70% of all cancer drugs come from nature. We know that the value, the economic value of pollination is about 1 trillion euro per year. And we know that if we look at climate again, that natural ecosystems, and that's the most important carbon sink is actually soils, natural ecosystems are the largest carbon stocks and CO2 sinks in the world. Now, if we look at how we treat nature, it is actually a very bad picture that we need to draw here. If we look at these, biodiversity, I should say, has 3 pillars. It's or 3 aspects to it. It's genetic diversity. This is diversity within a species. So if you look at your neighbor here, it's most likely also a human being. So we all belong to the same species, but we are obviously not genetic copies of each other. So genetic diversity. Then the second aspect of biodiversity, the second pillar, is species diversity. A dog is not a cat, a giraffe is not a zebra, etc. And the third level is ecosystem diversity. So a coral reef is not a forest is not a desert. And if you look at these 3 pillars of biodiversity, we see how badly we harmed biodiversity. So over the past 50 years, we have destroyed about 73% of all vertebrates, that is animals with bones, so fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. In the same period, we destroyed 80% of all insects. So what this number tells us is that the species are still there, but their variety, the genetic variety within these species, has been terribly reduced. And a reduced genetic diversity means a very strongly increased likelihood of becoming extinct. Then we also have accelerated species extinction, probably by the factor of 1,000. If you look at this Tyrannosaurus rex here, you probably know that all the large dinosaurs went extinct, and you might also know that they went extinct about 66 million years ago. And in geological times, that was a very rapid event. But if you look at real time, we know today that the extinction of the large dinosaurs took at least 33,000 years. So if we would have been alive at that period of time, if there would have been humans, they would not have realized that dinosaurs become rare, or that they even go extinct. So if we would do this today, the large dinosaurs would go extinct within 33 years. Each single one of us would realize that. And if we look at ecosystem diversity, if you look for real intact nature on not in the ocean, but on terrestrial ecosystems, you'll find that only 2 to 3% of the Earth's surface is untouched by humans. And the last number, I think, is also very kind of scary. If you would weigh all mammals living on our planet in this moment, and you would divide them in 3 groups. The first group would be humans. They would make up 36% of all the weight. Then the second group would be livestock. That's mainly cattle and pigs. That would be 60% of all the weight. So that the remaining 4% is the weight of wild mammals on this planet. That includes tiny shrews to the largest blue whale. So if you imagine that some extraterrestrials would visit planet Earth and they would be asked or say, okay, what did you see there? What kind of mammals do exist? If they would say, okay, there are pigs, there are cattle, and there are humans, they would be right in when we measure the weight in 96% of all cases. So what this tells us is that the speed and scale of the solution must finally exceed the must finally exceed the speed and scale of the destruction. And this brings us to AI. So the question, what we can see is that natural intelligence obviously brought us to the brink of the 6th mass extinction. And now we hope that artificial intelligence might help us to prevent this. So why do we hope that AI can help us here? And this has mainly to do with the fact that AI is very, very good at distinguishing or recognizing patterns. And a lot of things that happen in nature can actually be transferred into a certain type of pattern AI can then work on. So if you look at the shape of a giraffe, for example, the body shape of a giraffe or the body shape of a zebra, that is, you can transform this into a pattern. If you look at the coat pattern, of course, even if I showed you a small piece of coat of a giraffe and a small piece of coat of a zebra, you would most likely be able to say this is a zebra, this is a giraffe. Now, AI can distinguish all the zebras you see around the giraffe on an individual level. So this, for example, helps us to understand better what we know, how many species are there, how many individuals are there, what is the trend in these populations. So that's actually a very good job for AI. But we can also transfer other information from nature into patterns. For example, a sonogram. So the sound of a forest, the sound of a coral reef, for example, gives us a pattern of what's going on there, the sounds the animals make in that ecosystem. And if we give AI additional information about the state of the ecosystem, it's these soundscapes that are enough for AI to tell us what is the state of an ecosystem. And if you look at the forest, for example, deforestation, satellite images of deforestation also give neat patterns that AI can analyze quickly. And if you look at the neck or at the side, close to the neck of the giraffe, that's DNA. Even DNA barcoding is a pattern that AI can actually analyze. And I'll give you a concrete example that brings together AI, nature conservation, and economy. And this has to do with the largest fish on Earth, the whale shark. You see this animal in the middle, and for reference, you see also the size of a human diver. Now, the whale shark was found for the first time in the mid of the 19th century. Until 1986, there were 300 images of whale sharks. Now with AI, this number increased to 3,000. Today we know 3,000 individually distinguishable whale sharks, and the reason is that AI can easily distinguish the patterns, or the skin patterns of a whale shark. And what AI now does, it searches social media for pictures of whale sharks, because today a lot of hobby divers have cameras. They take pictures or films of whale sharks. They might give additional information on their social media account. They might say, well, look at me, last week at the Seychelles, I took a picture of this nice whale shark, and 25 degrees ocean temperature, everything was great. And so what AI now does is it collects all this information and it sets up a database of whale sharks. So if a new picture emerges, the AI can tell you, okay, this is Henry, the whale shark I've seen already 10,000 times, or it can say, no, this is a new whale shark, so it gives it a new ID, it sets up a new file for this whale shark. And AI can easily connect this information with a lot of other informations that we collect about ocean health, ocean physiology, temperature, food availability, current, light situation in a forest, in an ocean, etc. And with this information, AI is now able to predict the moving paths, the movement pattern and moving path of whale sharks. And this makes it an economic case, because if you look at the container ship there, a big problem of ship owners is that there are a lot of collisions with whale sharks. This is very bad for the whale shark, because in most cases the animals die, but it's also very bad for the ship owner, because in many cases the ship is somehow not destroyed, but it doesn't function very well afterwards. And this might lead to penalties to be paid because the ship arrives too late, some delivery deadlines cannot be held, etc. And so the future of AI application in whale sharks or the oceans and in connectivity or connection with the shipping industry will be that in future AI will be able to give information to the ship owners where whale sharks might occur. The ship owners can then slow down for a couple of hours maybe and prevent collisions with these whale sharks. And this is an economic model where conservation and AI and in this case ship owners play together. Another example is ecosystems, because we don't only need to protect species, we definitely need to protect ecosystems. And animals know a lot about their habitat and their home, and so we know that there are certain bird species that have a lot of knowledge about the health of a forest. The problem is that they can't easily speak to us. But the solution comes also from technology and AI. These birds can be equipped with little sensors. Some of these sensors only weigh 0.2 grams, so you can even attach them to large insects like grasshoppers or butterflies. And in this case, the movement patterns of the birds tell you about the health of the forest. And this is not only interesting for nature conservation people, but this is also very interesting for investors, because imagine you invest in a forest, be it for carbon certificates or biodiversity credits, whatever. You want to know what is the status of my investment, of my asset. And we've seen now, and there's plenty of research about this, that the soundscapes, the sound of a forest gives us a lot of information about the health of a forest. And this is a publication some of my colleagues did from the University of Würzburg in Germany, and they found that very reliable matter, AI tells us about the state of a forest. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to share with you today. As I said, if you're interested, if you speak or read German, you might want to read the books. You can get a free copy outside. If you rather listen than read, you can also listen to our podcast. Unfortunately, all of this is in German, but I heard that some of you at least are able to read and listen to German. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Is it on? Can you hear me? Yes, sorry. Okay, thank you, Frauke. Thank you very much. That has been interesting and a new perspective to me, or even better perspective on AI. We have a little Q&A coming up maybe we want to take a seat, make
Sure.
it more cozy on stage. And wow, look, ooh, now we have a totally different picture. I need yes, exactly. So, again, if you have a direct question to Dr. Fischer, you can use the QR code, and it will pop up right here on my tablet. And if it's a good question, I'm gonna ask it. Frauke, is it okay if I call you Frauke?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
You cannot say no now on stage, right? So the takeaway is AI cannot save nature?
No, well, I think we have to commit ourselves to save nature, and actually it's not so much about saving nature, it's actually about saving us. And AI can't do it, and of course you are aware of many other aspects of AI that actually harm biodiversity. I mean, it has a huge energy consumption, there's a huge water consumption. We need a lot of very sensitive raw materials, rare earths, etc., to keep AI running. But AI can be a very, very good assistant in if we need help to protect nature, to protect us. If we apply AI in a good way, if well thought out, etc., then it can be a super assistant to achieving goals much faster than we did before.
I mean, it's always the same message. People have to use it the right way.
Yeah.
So it's also always about us. AI can do a lot. It can do bad, and it can do good.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a weapon. If someone wants to rob a bank, has a weapon is a bad thing. But if the police has a gun to catch the guy who robbed the bank, then a weapon is a good thing.
Yes.
So.
We have a question that came in. Do you think AI is a real solution for environmental crisis, or more of a tool that depends on human systems and political will?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a tool. I mean, yeah, as I said, I mean, there are plenty of things, and yeah, it's a tool, and we have to think a lot about how to apply, how to use this tool. We also have to think. I mean, I only had 20 minutes, but if because there are actually large, very interesting topics to talk about this. For example, who gets access to the data, for example. If you imagine you have rangers that protect rhinos, it's super if the rangers know where the rhinos are at every given time. But if a poacher gets access to these data, a poacher can get rid of or extirpate the rhinos within a couple of days. So it's very, very important who gets access to the data. It's also very important what are the data sources, because the logic is always garbage in, garbage out. If we have very bad data to feed the AI, then we get very bad results. And a friend of mine, he's the former CEO of Google Germany, and he told me that last year 60% of the information in the internet was wrong, and they expect 90% of the information to be wrong by next year. So if you imagine, I don't know, you will ask ChatGPT, are wolves dangerous? Then the scientific literature tells us no, wolves are not dangerous because they are very much afraid of people. But if you let AI get access to open data, where a lot of people make up stories about wolves attacking people, then ChatGPT will tell you wolves are very, very dangerous. In Europe, 50,000 people are killed annually by wolves. And this is, of course, would, in this case, very much harm the protection of one of the rare recovering species in Europe.
So I have some more questions coming in. Can AI predict the behavior of nature?
Yeah, in a way it can, because I mean, the more complex a system, our brain is actually quite good in identifying patterns as well, and we learn much faster than AI. For example, if you think about a small kid, and it needs 3 pictures of a dog and 3 pictures of a cat to teach a child, this is a dog, this is a cat. If you want to do the same training with AI, you have to give the AI tens of thousands of pictures of a dog and tens of thousands of pictures of a cat, so that it can actually distinguish. But when the AI is trained, it can, of course, interlink much more information, much more data on a much quicker, much quicker than we can. And AI sees patterns, or if you interlink all these data, you see pattern that a human being cannot see. And this is the case with the movements of the whale sharks, for example. Humans, we cannot predict the movements of whale sharks. AI can. And so it is very likely that when we feed AI applications with a lot of environmental information, that it can predict changes in population trends, in environmental changes much better than we can. But again, you have to have good data, you have to have lots of data, and yeah.
There's one question that fits here. How do we know that the information we get is true?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as I said, garbage in, garbage out. So the first thing I think we need to do, we have to make sure that that we have like protected data rooms where where AI works only on scientific data that has been collected under very strong, rules for getting scientific information. And then, of course, you have to know what you can ask AI. Imagine you give an AI only information about how to bake a cake, and then you ask the AI how to cook an egg. The AI will give you an answer, but it's because it doesn't have the information how to cook an egg. This will be based on how to cook a cake, and this will lead to the wrong answers. And this is something we have to understand. What questions could we ask AI? How likely it is that the data source is sufficient to answer these questions?
So it's people need to be taught how AI works, and
yeah, and of course, I mean, it's a process, just like science is a process. If 500 years ago, even the best scientists in the world told you the world is flat. It has a beginning and an end, and you can fall over the edge. Now, and that was the status quo, the high-level science at that time. And of course, the more we know, the more information we can feed AI, the better the outcomes in terms of nature conservation will be. And yeah, it's always worth to critically discuss scientific findings, and of course, it's always worth to discuss AI answers to your questions. I mean, I asked, for example, I have a chocolate company, and I asked AI recently, what does my company do, my chocolate company? And the answer was, we are a marketing company. Oh, okay.
Wow. Well, of course,
interesting.
The chocolate needs marketing
yeah.
too, okay? Yeah. As we manage to extinct such a big part of the planet's wildlife, how fast could nature recover at all if we did the right things now?
Yeah, it's also a very good question, and we're about to work on this scientifically. There's a lot of research about this, and it depends on, if you look at a 100% recovery, this in many cases it's not possible. If a species goes extinct, it's extinct. All the genetic information is lost, and there's no way to bring that species back. So Jurassic Park is only fiction. You can't do this. It's absolutely impossible. If you have at least a couple of individuals, it very much depends on the genetic diversity of these few members or the few individuals that are left. For example, the West African lion is almost extinct, but fortunately, there's a national park in Senegal. There are only 40 individuals of lions, but obviously, they are not very closely related to each other. So this is lucky for lion conservation in this case, because we still have a high genetic diversity within this small number of individuals. Then if you look at ecosystems, recently, 2 or 3 weeks ago, a couple of my colleagues published a paper in Nature, and they found that tropical rainforest in Ecuador recovered much quicker than expected. It took only 30 to 40 years for the biodiversity to come back to, I think, about 80%. So you can say it's like the 20/80 rule. If the species are still there, if there's still at least a certain level of genetic diversity, there's a high likelihood that the nature can recover by 80% in 40 years. For the remaining 20%, it will be very, very difficult to recover that.
But this is, for the 20%, it's bad. But
yeah,
in
general, we can say that if nature, well, to say it very, very bluntly, we can say nature doesn't need our help. It's actually we need to help ourselves, and we need to give nature space and time to be able to recover. And it would be to our own advantage. For example, the best way to sequester carbon is to let nature thrive. Natural ecosystem, be it forest, wetlands, be it intact population of animals, are the best sinks to carbon. And if you think about, strawberries as a carbon sink, well, that's good, because then you can have strawberry ice cream in summer, and with something that sequestered carbon, which I think is quite smart.
I want to throw in, as a last question, when I look at the time, I want to throw in the topic we are going to talk about next, which is AI for ESG and CSRD. So what is your take on that? Are we right now with AI helping just to do better reporting, or are we already using it to also make better decisions?
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't say this here, because you are probably very much into ESG and reporting. I think that this is, in a way, it's asking the wrong question. I don't know, maybe some of you might have children. Now hopefully you never hit your children, but imagine you would do. And then you would say, okay, I only stop hitting my children if someone can give me the exact number if my child is then doing 2 or 3 better than it did before. Nobody would ask this. There are some things that are absolutely wrong, and there are some things that are absolutely right. To protect the basis of life, the basis of our economy, the basis of our society is right. And so I'm actually a little bit nervous when I see that many companies say, well, we start to act as soon as we can measure. And then, because I think, well, you better act now, because otherwise your company and your economic sector won't exist in a couple of years. And I also have to say that to measure biodiversity is super simple, or it's not super simple, but it's possible in a scientific way. The problem is that many companies are not able to ask the wrong questions, because when they tell me, okay, you can tell me what is my impact on biodiversity, then I ask them, okay, you tell me where your resources come from, and then they tell me, oh, we buy them on the global market. Well, okay, so you don't know where your resources come from, then I cannot tell you what your biodiversity footprint is. And I think, so I think it's more about doing right than about did I tick the right boxes, or did I fill out a nice Excel sheet? I know that this is...
Could also be an excuse to wait.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Let's see what we can take from this point of view to our next session. For now, thank you very much, Frauke. That has been a pleasure to chat with you here.
Thank you.